And we are back. Happy Friday. Um, we are. We've been consistent. I don't know. There's a thing you do something uh, with a certain cadence over a certain amount of time, over a certain period of time. It becomes habit. I think we are forming a habit here to have these on Fridays. Interesting times. I feel like I've said that the last few conversations we've had. That's been my opening line, the opening theme. But things are evolving, and it's been a dynamic last few weeks. And I'm rolling with the punches. I don't know who I was talking to recently. Just kind of mentioned that they're floating with the wind at this point. But there's a lot happening in our individual worlds and in everybody's world outside of that. So, but welcome to another episode 42. We're chopping away at it. We're going to start this how we always start this. Exercise in mindfulness. For us, that's 10 breaths focusing on your breath. I prefer your eyes closed just to center yourself, but whatever works for you, starting now. And now that we're here, I'd like to give, I'd like to introduce a brain teaser just to kind of get our minds going. The one I have for you today is the more I consume, the brighter I become. The brighter I become, the shorter my life. What am I? It is warming up. I don't know where you are in the world that you're hearing this, but I'm recording live from New York City. Brooklyn to be exact. I feel like I need to differentiate or at least specify, but it is warming up and the city becomes so lively when it warms up. And the moment you step outside, you can feel it. But I've been more conscious of being kind of putting myself in creative spaces. I've been intentional about that. I think that is one of the things that we talked about. When I say creative spaces, I also mean the people that kind of fill those spaces. So one of those particular spaces where that happened yesterday evening, I went to an event that it was intended to be a space for founders to gather and just kind of share their stories. And it was good. I was amongst a lot of other creative people and who are building businesses, just starting businesses and others who are a few years in. And it's interesting to see all these creative ideas and those who are in pursuit of it. And there's a couple of things that I always get from being in these conversations. One is that I cannot have vanilla conversation. All my conversations always end up in tandem or being supported by a story. Like I can never just tell you, hey, this. It was, hey, this, and some anecdotal evidence would always be a part of that. And so it's always interesting that I'm more and more conscious of that, especially when I'm having. It shows itself more obviously when I'm having just like random filler conversation that's like there's no really intent here, but let's just have a conversation, and then suddenly it turns into something else. But I can't help but to be human. But that's not what I want to talk about today. Actually, what I want to talk about is this idea of especially in events like these, one of the questions or the icebreaker for a lot of these type of events is usually, hey, like what do you do? Or what brings you here? And it's interesting because I say this every time I'm asked to introduce myself, whether it's in front of an audience, on a stage, or just random conversation. My response is always, I have a tough time explaining who I am. And I think a huge part of it is, I wish I remembered this scientist's name. He's a scientist / inventor, but was speaking on this documentary, which for the life of me I cannot remember the name of it. But I know he did some things with UCLA as well. Maybe I'll look up his name and somehow bring it up in a future conversation. But he says, if I were to tell you everything that I'm interested in, I think you would look at me kind of in an odd way, because it almost feels like if you knew everything I was interested in, it will dilute who I am, and it almost seemed like I'm all over the place. And when I heard that, it resonated with me, because when I'm asked to introduce myself, I'm not sure what aspect of me or my life or what version of me. We're not monoliths, and my life is layered, and I think it's colorful. So I never know which version of me to actually introduce. Obviously, there's context clues. Where am I? Who am I talking to? And all those things. But that doesn't make it easier. It just makes it less complicated. So in the context of yesterday, we were at an event for founders, and I am a founder of a fintech company. So that's how I introduced myself. And it was interesting because I'm around other people who I later learned suffer from the same thing that I suffer from. And it always makes me think of this phrase, which I think everybody knows, jack of all trades, master of none. But to complete that adage, or that phrase, it's jack of all trades, master of none is oftentimes better than a master of one. And I think that summarizes like my portfolio of creative outlets. Let's go with that. So I introduced myself as, I'm Swale. I am founder of eYunkta. It is a AI-enabled private on-demand e-commerce checkout powered by identity. It's a mouthful when I say it if I'm not actually talking to somebody. And we talk about it, like what it is, what it does, where we are, what we intend to do, and then I hit the ball over the racket, and now it's ball is in whoever I'm talking to, their court, and they respond, "Oh, I am a founder as well, and I do X, Y, Z," and then there's a moment when both parties now want to say something else, either about themselves or that could kind of speak to who they are. And it usually goes into like something is almost like a segue into something else. And as I was talking to this particular guy, he was like, "Oh yeah, I do this thing, but I'm also a consultant, and I consult on X, Y, Z." And then it almost became this back and forth. It's like, "Oh yeah, I do consulting too," but it wasn't even like a from a level of competition or a pissing match. It was purely like, it almost felt like, oh, like this is a comfortable enough space where we can kind of speak to our how diverse our minds are, and the things that we do that stray away from this straight line. And so it doesn't, in the moment, or not even after the fact, it doesn't feel like a competition or we're trying to outdo each other. It's just like, it's almost like this is a space where you can say everything and speak to your skill sets and speak to your other outlets and speak to other things that you are fascinated by without feeling the pressure of having the next person feel as if though either you're doing too much, or having them feel as if though they're not doing enough. because I mean, there's a lot of that, right? It's like I feel like a lot of us project, and sometimes in conversations, for a lot of creatives, like you want to speak on because you're proud of the things that you've accomplished, and you want to be able to share that, especially in honest and organic conversation. And so there was this thing where we kind of spoke about like the different areas of interest in what we individually have our hands in, and in it, a few other people joined the conversation, but everybody's face lit up, and it was fascinating to see individuals who are known for something in particular, but having a diverse portfolio of other creative outlets. And it was a moment. It was indeed a moment. And it made me think, and I feel like this is a conversation that we've had on this platform before, that creativity is not a one-way street. Creativity is not a singular idea. It is, and creativity is not even like a single skill. Like it's almost like a drive. Like creativity is what drives you, and it can drive you in any direction. And for a lot of us, one particular creative outlet and one singular medium cannot fulfill holistically our creative passion or our creative drive. And I feel like that is one of the reasons why most creative people who are actively in pursuit of their creativity find other outlets and other mediums to showcase their creativity. It's almost like this cross-pollination of creativity, right? It's if I'm creative here, what happens if I take this creativity and I utilize it in this particular space? And if it's working here, can I explore this one? And in it, it's almost like a journey in self-awareness, right? Because you get an opportunity to see yourself from in an alternate environment with an alternate set of conditions and tools and opportunities, and you're leveraging your creativity to make a way to form art from this. And it happens constantly, right? It's a few episodes ago I talked about this dire need to want to be creative and to fill those empty gaps when I'm not in a creative space. And one of the things that I talked about was just kind of reaching out to people to feel like to see if they have any problems within their own world that need solving. And I wasn't specific to a specific type of medium, a specific type of problem, or an area of interest. It was just, hey, is there an opportunity for innovation and creativity in anything in your life that you feel like maybe a second set of eyes or a second set of ears could help with? Because creativity is not limited to anything in particular, right? It's not limited to the arts, which is something that we spoke about like numerous times, right? It's not limited to music. It's not limited to cinema. It's not limited to anything. Like whatever profession you choose, there's an opportunity for creativity to show that. And what I realized, if I think about the things, all the different mediums through which I leverage my creativity, as much as they are different, the creative journey and the creative process is the same. But they serve different purposes for me in my own life. And I think that's just the thing that I'm starting to learn over time. It's like when I'm in design mode or thinking fashion, that is fulfilling it's less of like I don't think when people talk about filling your cup, right? This idea of this proverbial cup, does this fill your cup? I don't see it as a singular cup. I feel like my cup, or my version of this idea of a cup, is more like one of those cupcake baking sheets that has multiple different cups. And as much as you can fill one, there's still another row and column of other cups that need to be filled. And that's how I see, when I think about how diverse my creative mediums and outlets are, that's how I see it. It's like there's multiple opportunities and different cups that need to be filled to make up who I am holistically and make me feel accomplished in a certain way. And sometimes it's not even about accomplishment. It's just kind of, it is what makes me feel like myself. Almost bring some level of comfort, because I know that there's all these versions of me are being accounted for and accommodated for. And it's interesting, because I'm not alone in that. Like, I'm not the only one that experiences this or goes through this particular thought process and has this dire need to be able to explore their creativity and make connections to different forms of art and different forms of creative outlets. So it's fascinating to be around people and that are experiencing it at the same time, and are not embarrassed by it, or don't feel the need to downplay it or feel as if though they're going to be misunderstood because of it. It's like, I think the best part of yesterday's conversation was like, I left and they left feeling like, yo, it's okay to have this, to have a buffet of creative outlets. Like, I think creativity is more a buffet than it is like going to a restaurant and ordering one thing and then not having an option to order anything else. Now, there are days when, yes, especially if you're trying to like hone in on a particular piece of art or innovation or something in particular, it requires some specificity, and it requires you to kind of bring all focus to this one thing and this one thing in particular. And I understand that there are times for that, and this conversation isn't about either preventing that from happening or making that seem that having that level of precision on a particular task could potentially be a problem. That is obviously, well, that is not what this is intended to be. But I think we all left with this idea that, yo, it's okay to be doing all of this. It's okay that one day I am a professor and I get to help other creative minds bring ideas to life. And other days I run a fintech and I get to find ways to introduce innovation into a particular area or niche that might not have had much innovation. Other days I'm intentional about running a innovation as a service shop, where a huge part of that is connecting people to their creativity. And it is this personal journey and this intimate relationship between somebody and their five senses, right? An individual and their five senses. Other days I'm trying to design products. Sometimes I've dabbled in sometimes in times past I've dabbled in music. And they all satisfy a different part of me. And I think that is something that most creatives have to accept, that this idea that we are just this singular thing, that it only takes one thing to either satisfy us, or we're supposed to conform to this idea that, hey, do this one thing and do it right, and that is the right way. I do not subscribe to that idea. I'm not saying that it is wrong. I'm just saying for who I am, and what I am, and what I continue to be, I don't believe that would work for me. Now, Everyone is different. And for some of us can be general practitioners, and some of us could be a doctor in a more skilled with a more skilled expertise. I don't know if that I'm saying the same thing twice. It almost feels like it, but the point here is this: we are allowed to have multiple creative outlets. We're allowed to have outlets that, when placed next to each other, are an odd coupling. We are allowed to take risks and explore other areas and aspects. We're allowed to take our creativity and see how far it can possibly take us in various mediums. And the more we create across a diverse spectrum, the more we start to realize that the creative process doesn't change in each medium. And a lot of what exists in the arts, and how innovation and creativity manifests in the arts, there is a correlation and a pattern that is similar to how it exists in the sciences and any other field. And I think ultimately that is the point I'm trying to make here. I'm trying to say that you're allowed to cross-pollinate your creativity. It is okay to have a diverse creative lists of mediums. It is okay to one day be creatively this and the other day to be creatively that. And I don't think that is something that you should be ashamed of or feel like you cannot say, or the time has to be perfect for you to say that. And the person who you're actually saying it to has to totally understand it. We are not monoliths. We are not automatons. We are everything. And we're allowed to explore everything, especially if it is an active pursuit of our creativity and its potential. With that said, I don't want to take this or make this longer than it should be. We're going to end how we started, with this, I guess, brain teaser. It is: the more I consume, the brighter I become. The brighter I become, the shorter my life. What am I? I am a light bulb. Continue to shine bright. Don't ever feel the need to dim your light for anyone, for any opportunity, or just so you can fit in any space. I will leave you how I always leave you. Go be great.